I want to start with Jimmy Kimmel, who went on the podcast of comedian Sarah Silverman and said a bunch of crazy okay, including, I'll just give you this one for flavor. He's yet another leftist who's thinking about fleeing America. So afraid is he of Trump.
And so I did get Italian citizenship.
You do?
I do.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I do have that. And what's going on is as bad as you thought it was going to be.
Way worse.
It's so much worse.
Jimmy Kimmel strolls onto his late night stage thinking it's business as usual. Cue the awkward smirk, cue the weak punchlines. But then Megyn Kelly swoops in like a one-woman wrecking crew with zero chill and maximum firepower. What happens next isn't just a takedown, it's a full-blown comedy demolition derby. Did Jimmy ever stand a chance, or did he just walk straight into the roasting pit? Stick around because this clash is juicier than a Hollywood scandal.
Oh, sure, because we look to Jimmy Kimmel to figure out insights into how Donald Trump is thinking. The absurdity of this. I would say go, but I love Italy too much to say that. They don't deserve this. I'm sorry, but he should go to Ireland. They do deserve this. They're as woke as they come. My people, who are like among the toughest people on earth or were, have gone completely woke. But, you know, I'm Irish and Italian, so I have empathy. And he should not go to Italy. It's too beautiful a country to host Jimmy Kimmel. And why would they have given him citizenship to begin with? But in any event, he should go. He should definitely leave. But he won't. He's just saying that to get plaudits from fellow leftist Sarah Silverman and from people who...
Jimmy Kimmel has spent years polishing his crown as Hollywood's late-night jester, tossing softballs to celebrities while hurling snarky grenades at anyone outside his bubble. He struts onto his stage with the smug confidence of a man who thinks his cue cards are commandments. But then along comes Megyn Kelly. And suddenly the joke isn't just flat. It's turned inside out, shaken, and handed back to him like a receipt for bad comedy.
In the day when I was on the prime time of Fox and you were on the prime time of CNN, a couple of hours after our shows ended, late night comics would come on, and they occasionally would make us laugh, Piers. I mean, occasionally they understood that they were in the game of making everyone laugh. As you know, they've abandoned that game now, and they're just political operatives out there. Colbert, Kimmel, Seth Meyer, who I struggle to even mention that guy's name. He's such an absolute prick.
Because when Kelly decides to torch someone, she doesn't come with punchlines. She arrives with a flamethrower and a filing cabinet full of receipts. Let's rewind for a moment. Jimmy Kimmel didn't start life as the woke oracle of late night. No, rewind the tape far enough and you'll find him hosting The Man Show, guzzling beer on stage and tossing out jokes that today would earn him a one-way ticket to Twitter exile.
He will never leave his very lucrative but loser of a show on ABC's late night. He's not going to abandon that because feeling important and like he matters is too important to Jimmy Kimmel. But he's got to get stroked by leftists by saying he's gotten Italian citizenship, and he may indeed exercise it by leaving a United States that even Donald Trump must feel has gone too far. Okay, not our guy for insights on Trump's thinking. I think we know that.
Back then, he was the guy gleefully leaning into edgy, borderline offensive humor. Fast forward a couple decades, and suddenly, he's the self-appointed hall monitor of comedy, wagging his finger at anyone who doesn't toe Hollywood's moral line. It's like watching the class clown snitch to the teacher because someone else got a laugh.
Comforting words for them, Piers?
Just get over yourselves. Honestly, it's so pathetic. Watching grown men weep, because actually the real reason they're weeping is they know they've spent years over-demonizing Trump as the new Hitler, and he's going to wreck everything and wreck America. He's terrible, he's a fascist, he's a neo-Nazi, blah, 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 blah. And what happened this week? America, having already seen Trump as president for 4 years, and seen 4 years of what then followed under Biden and Harris, they went out in record numbers, white, black, Latino, men, women, all demographics, and they voted for apparently the new Hitler.
And Megyn Kelly, she's built an entire career out of not caring what Hollywood thinks. From her days at Fox News, where she took on politicians with a stare sharp enough to cut glass, to her brief stint at NBC that ended faster than Kimmel's punchline lands, Kelly has never been shy about wading into controversy. Unlike Kimmel, she doesn't need a laugh track. She has facts, sharp analysis, and the uncanny ability to make an opponent look like they wandered into the wrong debate entirely. So when Kimmel thought it would be fun to take a swipe at Kelly, what he really did was pull the pin on a grenade and then look confused when it went off in his own hands. Kelly didn't just clap back, she dismantled him, brick by brick, with the precision of someone who knows exactly how late-night comedians operate and why their shtick is wearing thinner than Kimmel's hairline. Here's the thing about Kimmel. His whole persona is built on the illusion of being the voice of the people, except those people all happen to live in zip codes with ocean views and Tesla charging stations. He sits at his desk looking down on the rest of America as if he's broadcasting live from Mount Olympus, except instead of lightning bolts, he's tossing half-hearted jokes about politicians he doesn't like. The problem is, comedy is supposed to punch up, but Kimmel seems addicted to punching sideways and hoping his studio audience will bail him out with applause.
Jimmy Kimmel was very upset that Donald Trump took a shot at Taylor Swift. Trump was making fun of the fact that she got booed openly at the Super Bowl and he got cheered to the high heavens. And Jimmy Kimmel didn't much like that and had the following to say.
At the game, he got a big thrill because some of the crowd booed Taylor Swift.
Okay. But by the way, I was there all the way through and she was gone. She was missing in action for most of the second half. So I don't know what he's talking about. Trump left at his previously designated time, which was, I think, 8:02. That had been scheduled, and that is when he left. And it's a little harder, Jimmy, when you're the president of the United States, because if you leave when everybody else is leaving, you completely F them over because no one can move anywhere. It's total gridlock in the city.
Kelly saw right through it. She didn't bother with witty comebacks or cheap shots. She went for the jugular, Kimmel's hypocrisy. How does a man who once trafficked in the most outrageous, edgy material now act like he's the guardian of morality? How does a comedian who made his career off shock value suddenly position himself as America's therapist, lecturing everyone on politics between celebrity interviews? Kelly asked these questions not with rage, but with cold surgical precision. And that's why it stung. Because Kimmel can laugh off an insult, but it's harder to laugh off a mirror held up to your face. Of course, Hollywood rushed to his defense. They always do. The machine closed ranks, dismissing Kelly as bitter or irrelevant. But here's the thing. Irrelevant people don't dominate news cycles. Irrelevant people don't spark debates across social media with clips going viral faster than Kimmel's ratings can sink. If she was irrelevant, then why was everyone suddenly talking about her instead of him? Let's not forget the broader context here. Late-night TV is dying a slow, painful death. The numbers don't lie. Ratings for these shows are circling the drain, and it's not because people suddenly stopped liking jokes, it's because the shows stopped being funny. They became predictable, formulaic, and worse, preachy. Instead of laughing at ridiculous situations, audiences are now treated to monologues that feel like rejected campaign speeches.
I don't watch Kimmel. I can't stand him. The best thing I can say about Jimmy Kimmel is that he's friends with Adam Carolla, who's a truly decent, honorable, great guy. But Kimmel doesn't strike me that way. But Fallon is not a bad guy. Fallon is a sweetheart. But Fallon's shtick is completely empty and has lost all sense of entertainment. I'd take him out of the three of them any day of the week. But Fallon's programming, forgive me, it's not smart. In no way is it intellectually engaged.
And Megyn Kelly, with her independent platform, represents the exact opposite trend. She doesn't need a network, a laugh track, or a room full of interns feeding her lines. She talks directly to her audience, and they listen because she actually says what she thinks, not what the studio wants. That's what makes this clash so fascinating. On one side, you've got Jimmy Kimmel, propped up by Hollywood, desperately clinging to his relevance through a format that's on life support. On the other, Megyn Kelly, free from the shackles of mainstream networks, speaking straight to millions without having to answer to anyone but her audience. It's David versus Goliath, except Goliath is armed with stale jokes and cue cards while David's packing a verbal sniper rifle. And then there's the public reaction. Kimmel's fans, bless their hearts, tried to dismiss Kelly's takedown as overblown. "It's just comedy," they cried, as if that excuses everything. But here's the kicker. Kelly wasn't offended by the joke. She was offended by the hypocrisy. Comedy has always been about saying the unsayable, pushing boundaries, making people uncomfortable. But when comedians turn into scolding nannies, picking and choosing which topics are fair game based on political convenience, that's not comedy anymore. It's propaganda with a laugh track.
Just this past 2 weeks, they had the Kennedy Center honors the other night where Joe Biden couldn't say Dionne Warwick. He kept calling her Diane, and he didn't know who Barry Gibb was. He kept calling him Billy. You know who else was honored? At the Kennedy Center. You know who else? Billy Crystal. Just FYI, do you know who once opened up the Academy Awards in full blackface?
Oh,
Billy
yeah.
Crystal. Billy Crystal. And do you know who's going to be hosting the Academy Awards this year? Jimmy Kimmel. Do you know who's worn blackface repeatedly and spoken inner city sort of urban accent saying she needs to darn those socks? Jimmy Kimmel as
Kelly exposed that. She exposed how late-night shows like Kimmel's are less about humor and more about virtue signaling. And the public noticed. The clips of her response spread across social media like wildfire, not because she was shouting, but because she was saying what so many people already felt, that comedy has lost its edge, and comedians like Kimmel are too busy polishing their halos to realize they've become boring. What really sealed the deal was the irony of it all. Here's Jimmy Kimmel, a man whose job is literally to make people laugh, getting schooled by Megyn Kelly, a journalist who isn't even trying to be funny. She turned him into the punchline without cracking a single joke. That's the kind of humiliation you don't just walk off. That's the kind of moment that lingers, replayed again and again as evidence that maybe, just maybe, the emperor has no clothes. And the bigger picture? This wasn't just about Kimmel and Kelly. It was about the shifting tides in media. People are tired of being lectured by late-night hosts who live in gated communities while pretending to understand middle America. They're tired of canned jokes that sound like they were written by interns on autopilot. They want authenticity, raw opinions, and yes, even confrontation. Kelly delivered all of that in one fiery package. She didn't just destroy Kimmel, she exposed the entire ecosystem that props him up.
Just last week, his average was in the overall, meaning all viewers, 1.5 million. In the key demo, 236,000. Tucker would have been embarrassed to pull that on any night he was on the Fox News channel. That's what they're getting now. Tucker's numbers were 3 times what Jimmy Kimmel gets. And Tucker's little basement video that he did from clearly like his cabin that he broadcasts out of Maine in literally has 21 million views. Okay, 21 million views. Whereas, as I point out, on ABC, a massive network that comes into your home for free, that you have to make no effort to find, at best, Jimmy Kimmel can get 1.5 million. He needs to have a little self-perspective before going out there and hurling these insults because he looks a little...
So what happens now? Does Kimmel lick his wounds and keep going as if nothing happened? Probably. Does Kelly move on to her next target without missing a beat? Absolutely. But the damage is done. The late-night veneer cracked, and for once, the comedian wasn't the one laughing last. Because in this battle, Megyn Kelly didn't just destroy Jimmy Kimmel, she reminded everyone why he was ripe for destruction in the first place. Jimmy Kimmel licking his wounds after that demolition might have been funny if it wasn't so painfully predictable. He did what every Hollywood comedian does when they get called out. Pretend it never happened, keep reading the cue cards, and hope the internet finds a new distraction. But the problem is, when you've just been reduced to rubble by Megyn Kelly, ignoring it doesn't erase the smoke still rising from the crater. The internet doesn't move on that quickly, and neither does Kelly. The fallout was immediate. Social media exploded into a frenzy of memes, hot takes, and digital brawls that made your uncle's Facebook arguments look like tea parties. Clips of Kelly slicing through Kimmel's carefully curated persona spread like wildfire, and suddenly Jimmy wasn't trending because of a joke. He was trending because he got roasted without even realizing the oven was on. That's the kind of PR disaster you can't spin with a few sarcastic monologues. It's the digital version of getting pantsed in front of the whole school. Everyone laughs, and you're left fumbling to cover yourself with whatever's left of your dignity.
You all know what they saw. They saw what we saw. They saw the frail elderly man who needed help getting off the stage. They're just too chicken shit to tell us about it because they accurately deduce that he could still be the Democratic nominee and they don't want to ding him up. Maybe you give Barbara a pass. Who gives a damn what this singer saw or says? But you know what? Jimmy Kimmel happens to be employed by ABC, which happens to have a rather large news organization. And he has been one of President Trump's most vocal critics. Where are you, Jimmy? On vacation? Not.
Kimmel's defenders tried to ride to his rescue, but their arguments were thinner than a Hollywood juice cleanse. It's just comedy, they whined, as if that explains why their champion suddenly looked like he'd been hit with a logic grenade. Sure, comedy is supposed to make people laugh, but Kelly wasn't attacking the joke. She was attacking the hypocrisy behind the joke. The fact that Jimmy plays moral cop now when his own comedy history reads like a cautionary tale of what not to say on television. It wasn't about hurt feelings. It was about exposing the emperor's lack of clothes. And in this case, the emperor's wardrobe had already been auctioned off by TMZ years ago. Late-night TV is bleeding viewers faster than Kimmel can cue another awkward celebrity story. The numbers are brutal. Once upon a time, these shows were cultural juggernauts. Now they're fighting for scraps in a world where YouTube clips and independent podcasts are eating their lunch, and the audience isn't shy about pointing out the obvious. Late night isn't funny anymore. It's stale, it's predictable, it's a mix of canned applause and reheated talking points. Kelly just said it out loud and attached Jimmy's name to it, making him the poster child for everything wrong with the format.
At the Sunday morning show with Stephanopoulos into the evening Academy Awards broadcast with Kimmel, and ABC elevating, the blackface lovin' Kimmel. They, at the same time, fired Chris Harrison, host of The Bachelor, for trying to defend one contestant on The Bachelorette for saying, gee, I know I went to this antebellum party, a couple years ago. I guess I didn't see anything wrong with it. And all he said was, are we judging her by today's standards, or are we judging her by, old standards, whatever. He was basically trying to say, are we being...
That's the part that stung the most. It wasn't just Kelly going after Kimmel personally, it was Kelly turning Kimmel into the symbol of a dying industry. He became the embodiment of late-night fatigue, the man holding the mic while the world collectively yawns. And people rallied to that narrative because it felt true. When was the last time anyone said, "Did you catch Kimmel last night?" without irony? Exactly. Meanwhile, Kelly's stock soared. She doesn't need a laugh track. She doesn't need a studio audience to tell people when to react. She speaks, people listen, and the internet does the rest. That's a kind of influence late-night hosts used to have, but lost the moment they traded jokes for lectures. Of course, Kimmel tried to shrug it off. He moved on to other monologues, other targets, other attempts to prove he still mattered. But the shadow of Kelly's takedown loomed large. Every new clip was measured against that humiliation. Every attempt at being funny carried the unspoken reminder that Megyn Kelly had turned him into a meme. He couldn't erase it, and the more he ignored it, the more obvious it became that he had no answer.
Padma Lakshmi. She, for some reason, decided to leave the kitchen and to get up in my grill back in 2018 on NBC, and she lectured me that caricaturing another race perpetuates the dehumanization of people of color. And she did go on Jimmy Kimmel.
Political show, cultural show, and it allows me to artistically with entertainment, say what I want to say. Well, show rather than say what I would say if I got on my soap.
So I'm sure in the next bit, she must have gone after Kimmel for his long history of misogyny and racist
controversy about whether you ketchup or no ketchup.
Well, where do you stand on the ketchup on the pasteles?
The irony of the situation is delicious. Kimmel, the comedian, reduced to silence. Kelly, the journalist, elevated to the role of cultural commentator and accidental comedian, because she made Jimmy himself the joke. The man who once roasted others became the roast itself, and no amount of studio polish could cover up the burn marks. What's even funnier is how this whole saga exposed the audience divide. And here's where the story gets even juicier. Kelly's dismantling of Kimmel wasn't just a one-off. It set a precedent. It showed that you don't need to play by Hollywood's rules to dominate the conversation. You don't need a network behind you when you have truth, wit, and the internet on your side. Kimmel had the machine. Kelly had momentum. Guess which one wins in 2025? The machine looks outdated, like a fax machine in an iPhone world. Kelly looks like the future, sharp, direct, unfiltered, and effective. So while Jimmy continues reading jokes written by a team of writers, Megyn Kelly continues writing her own script, the one where she takes down late-night royalty and proves that authenticity trumps applause signs. The battle lines are clear, and no matter how much Kimmel smirks through it, everyone knows the score. The guy with the cue cards got schooled by the woman with nothing but facts and a sharp tongue. And that's not a punchline you recover from with another monologue.